Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Spotlight HBG, our weekly topical show in which we introduce you to the best and the brightest of the people working for the city of Harrisburg. And today's special guest is our new Public Works Director, Mr. Nate Spriggs. Nate, it is great to have you here.
Thank you, Mayor.
We're going to have a conversation in just a second, but I want to start this show, as I have all of our shows up to this point, with an update on where we stand regarding the wastewater epidemiology and the measurement of COVID in Harrisburg. You can see the graph on your screen now, and it's showing something which is really quite alarming. It's showing that as we move from September into October, we are definitely seeing now a prolonged spike in the incidence rate here in the city. If you compare, in fact, this October to last October, you'll see we're just well ahead of the curve, and it's definitely not the direction we want it to go in. Two aspects of the measurements which are noticeable to me is that we're up to a new case incident rate of an estimate of 140 new cases of COVID a day in the city of Harrisburg, which is very alarming. But even more alarming, we are starting to move off the chart in relationship to measurements of other communities in Pennsylvania and throughout the country. Our concentration rate is now higher than 90% of all the samples that are being measured throughout the country. This is a further reminder that we are not through the woods. I know some of you have received booster shots if you are over the age of 65 or if you have underlying medical conditions. I think that's important for the vaccine, but it's equally important that if you haven't been vaccinated, you get vaccinated. I know I'm doing a event with the Farm Show this week in which there is a free vaccine clinic. There are quite a few, and the vaccine is plentiful, free, and available in the city. Please do your part, get vaccinated, and don't end up a statistic on this graph. We'll continue to monitor the situation and do what we need to do to keep Harrisburg safe, but you need to do your part. Be socially distant, wear a mask when around others, especially indoors. And as we move indoors, that's part of it. We need to avoid the recycled air as best we can, and please get vaccinated if you haven't. We're going to turn now to Nate Spriggs. And Nate, this show is important because while you're a familiar face to some in Harrisburg, you're not known by everyone. And I want people to be able to know a little bit about you as our new director and also feel comfortable in approaching you or sharing their thoughts about constituent services here in the city. Awesome. So let's talk about growing up in Harrisburg, because that really, I think, defines who you are as a person and an individual. Where did you grow up, and what was your childhood like here in the city?
Well, Mayor, I grew up in Harrisburg, home manor housing projects. Mm-hmm. My father and mother were a great blessing in my life, and they helped mold me into the man that I am today. Yeah. And I would like to give special thanks to my aunt Barbara Watson, my grandmother Mary Williams, and my great-grandmother, Aunt Laura Hughes. Because once my dad passed when I was 14, they stood up and they became a part of my life, and they were the additional parents that we all needed. My 5 brothers and 3 sisters needed to get through at times. So I want to give them a special thanks as well.
Wow. Yeah. A large extended family, so
yes,
important
sir.
And so typical, really, of Harrisburg. What was your experience like in school and getting the education that eventually formed you?
Harrisburg High School was Harrisburg High, and Harrisburg in general was awesome. Mm-hmm. Diverse population of students. It just was an experience that you can't describe. It was undescribable. It means so much. It made me who I am today. The education was, a lot of times Harrisburg always received bad publicity for the lack of education available. And, I found that to be the total opposite. It was available to those of us who wanted to learn and become creative and move forward and develop and become responsible adults and responsible people. I specifically really appreciated the Votech school that we had here, William Penn, in which I graduated from William Penn in 1989. And that Votech launched my career, and it helped me launch a public works career. It's what got me interested in construction in itself. So Harrisburg High School was wonderful.
That's terrific to hear, and I know vocational training, technical, that is something that we need more of. And what are your thoughts, on seeing the current sort of abandoned state of the William Penn campus?
My wife and I have this conversation all the time. We talk about the money that's wasted in this country, and that, I think that helps bring a community together. A lot of our children, especially our black children, our minorities, they don't have the things that I had that got me to this level. There's been a lot of, like you said, abandonment of that school, and there was a lot of creativity and job creation that came out of William Penn. There was technical trades, there was business, there was cosmetology, you name it, it was there, and it gave our children, our youth something to do to better prepare them and moving forward and finding a job or finding a career.
That's great. Did you have a particular teacher that influenced you?
Gilbert Morrissey. He was my electrical teacher. Mr. Gilbert Morrissey, he was a master electrician, and he really, he was tough on us, but he brought that level of responsibility that helped develop me into who I am, and further pushes me to make that type of choice or hold my people responsible and accountable as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of training which goes into that. Did you know right away when you graduated from William Penn and you decided to go on to Hack that you wanted to go into some sort of mechanical field?
Absolutely, yes, sir. So I knew that I loved working with my hands. I loved construction. I loved the end product of building and designing, and so that's always been a love of mine.
Yeah, that's great. All right, so what was Hack like?
Hack was great. Hack's a quality community college, and back then, I don't know if this is still true, so don't hold me to this, but you were almost able to transfer to any four-year school and transfer all of your credits. Yeah. And it was just it was reasonably priced. The cost of attending was great, and the education was quality.
Yeah, that's great, and they're still absolutely doing that today.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think you go on to Wilson College as well, down in Chambersburg, right?
That's correct. And Mayor, when I attended, it's a funny story, and I tell people this story, and they don't believe me a lot of times, but it was an all female school when I attended at one point, and I had to go at night, and I earned my business degree, bachelor's in business administration. And that was a great experience. It was tiresome driving back and forth, working here in the city and driving back and forth at night over the highway. But it was well worth it. It was, once again, a quality education, and I enjoyed every bit of it. And the people involved, the teachers and the administration was so involved in educating the students, and so it was really great.
All right. Well, that's wonderful. So you've got your education, you've been prepared locally, you want to go into a career, some sort of mechanical field, and you apply to the city. What drew you to want to work in Harrisburg? And let me ask the question, why did you want to stay in Harrisburg as opposed to, go off and make your future somewhere else?
Because Harrisburg has a lot of opportunity here, Mayor. There's a lot of excuses about going other places and seeking opportunities, but there's tons of opportunities here. There's tons of opportunities in the central Pennsylvania area. And so I'm going to always love Harrisburg. I'm committed to Harrisburg. Like I mentioned earlier, Harrisburg made me who I am. And I knew that, working for the city of Harrisburg would be a great opportunity. It would allow me to move up and eventually get to where I am now. So Harrisburg has always given me that.
And a quick plug for our HR department, but we have positions right now that are open in public works and in custodial positions, labor positions, driver positions, all sorts of great positions from which you can start a career. But you wanted to work for the city, you applied right away, and you were hired. So what were your first experiences working for Harrisburg?
Honestly, Mayor, they weren't great.
Okay.
They weren't great because of, when I got hired in the city, we were just coming out of the 80s into the 90s. It was early on. And we didn't have the diversity in the city like we do now. We now have a diverse number of employees in key positions. It wasn't like that in the 90s. So it was very tough. The opportunities weren't what I expected. The racial disparities was here, and and you helped, get rid of that. So
Well, that's for sure. I mean, we've been committed to building a diverse city workforce, both in terms of union employees, but also management.
Absolutely.
And it's reflective of the diversity of the city, and that's our great strength. But when you say it wasn't that way as recently as the 90s, what do you mean? Let's talk about it.
well, yeah, sure. There was a lot of qualified minorities, women, and people of color being overlooked for positions that they absolutely qualified for. And I was one of those people. And, I want to, like I said, I want to credit you again for giving me my first start in management because, like we mentioned before, I was well educated. I deserved this position. I was good at what I did, but we were overlooked. And that's something that now we don't have to worry about. If we come into the city, we're qualified. If vacancies available, you award that position to that person, regardless of who they are, what color they are,
Right.
and that means a lot to me. And that's what I've seen over the 22 plus years that I've been with the city is the change that's now here.
Yeah, well, that's great, and we'll talk about that because I remember meeting you when I was a new mayor, seeing all that you had to offer, and helping you with that shift to management. But let's talk about being a union employee. How did AFSCME and help you sort of navigate up the ranks at a time when there was discrimination and there were people that were overlooking work based on merit?
So AFSCME's always been a great union, and they've always been strong in supporting their members. And I was proud to be a part of AFSCME. Back then, and I can't speak for them now because I'm no longer a union employee, but back then they were a strong, cohesive unit that stood together and wanted to just better place themselves in the workforce. And they just wanted to do positive things for the city of Harrisburg. And that started from the top, and it resonated down. And I was proud to be in AFSCME. I was proud to be a shop steward, and I moved the whole way up to the ranks of local union president,
Right.
in which we negotiated great contracts with the city, and it was just great.
Yeah. And about that time, as we move into the 2000s, that's when the city begins to really experience the financial trouble.
Yes, sir.
And you have you have a series of contracts which are not so great. In fact, the city it goes bankrupt, goes into receivership, and a state-appointed receiver comes in and starts demanding concessions. There's a whole period of time without raises. We don't have to go into great detail, but I will say we've come out of that. And one of the exciting things, and I can announce this on the show, is that we do have an agreement in principle. Still needs to be voted on and ratified by City Council and the union, but an agreement in principle for a new 4-year contract for AFSCME with real raises and bonuses and opportunities for progress, which I think are going to be very good. They portend very well for the future of our workforce here in the city. But back to that. So let's talk about, at the same time that you're moving through the ranks, a couple other interesting aspects of your biography. You go back to school and you get a master's degree in business administration from
Yes,
Eastern.
sir. Eastern University.
What prompted that?
Actually, they came into the city at one point, and they were just announcing that they were doing a cohort here in Harrisburg, and I said, "Wow, that sounds interesting." So
Yeah.
it was right in City Hall,
Yeah.
and you walked over to me and you said, "Nate, what are you doing here? You thinking about going back
Yeah.
to school?" And I said, "Yes, sir. I think I will sign up." And so I did it, and and it was great for me, and it's been a great experience earning my MBA, and it's been well worth it. Every inch, every ounce of studying, everything that I've learned, it's been just a great experience.
Oh, that's good to know. And and we won't go too far down memory lane, but there was a proposal at that time. We were going to actually bring Eastern University into City Hall and have that continuing education component literally not just available for city employees, but available for city residents right here in the downtown. Unfortunately, council voted that program down, and it didn't happen. But you were still able to get your degree.
That's correct.
And you also, and I didn't know this about your biography, and I'm sorry, I knew lots of things, but you also at this time, you got your realtor's license.
Yes, actually, I've been a realtor now for 17 years.
Wow.
And I've worked for several companies in the area. And that's also been a wonderful thing that I've had the opportunity to help young homeowners and homeowners buy their first home. That's always been a joy to me because coming from Hall Manor, the projects, I never thought that was going to be a reality for me. And once it became a reality for me, and I realized how promising and the joy that I felt and my family felt owning our home, that I had to share this with someone else. And so that was a mission of mine to get licensed and help others, live that dream.
No, that's great. What an interesting perspective too on both economic development as well as community relations to help people transition into a permanent home. And I can see why that's appealing. But it's an interesting aspect of a biography. So before you move into management, you literally do pretty much every job that there is to do, don't
Yes,
you?
sir.
In
That's
public
correct.
works,
That's
can you
correct.
talk about some of?
Sure.
Yeah.
So some of the jobs I've done in public works is I personally worked on a sanitation truck. I was in the traffic engineering department where I performed electrical, lighting, street wiring, ditch digging and running lines. We did signage work. I've actually climbed the towers on City Island and repaired those lights for years.
Nice. Yes.
Yeah, we did bridge work. Electricity on the bridge here, Walnut Street Bridge. We've done it all. I mean, you name it, I was a part of it. Highway department, prior to management, I worked every aspect of the public works department with the exception of the vehicle maintenance center.
And how important do you think that experience is to now being able to sort of lead the department effectively, to be able to basically say to anyone who works in public works, I've been in your shoes, I've done that?
That's absolutely key, because what that does is that lets everyone know that you have experienced what they're going through now, and that it's only going to get better, and we're going to work together to get you the necessary tools you need to be successful. So doing those jobs, knowing what it takes to do those jobs, it just gives us everyone in the building an advantage.
Right. So let's talk about your move from union to management,
Okay.
and what that meant for you, and how that how that experience played into your career development.
Okay, so the move from union to management was something that once again you awarded me, and it was based on my work ethic and the commitment that I had to the city and the public works department. But that also allowed me to pursue employment with Susquehanna Township
Sure.
as a director of public works for
Right.
the last 4 years, and which I learned a lot. They're great people. They gave me a shot, but I owe that totally to my position here at management, because that allowed me to elevate to that next level
Yeah.
and learn the directorship position.
Yeah, and I remember when we, when I found out you were leaving for Susquehanna Township, obviously we were sorry and we wished we could have kept you, but it seemed like a natural career progression. And obviously we want to support a career development of all of our employees. So so you move from you move from the city to Susquehanna Township. You take on a new director's role in public works, and can you talk a little bit about the differences between going from the city to the township?
Well, sure, Mayor. There's a variation of differences. There was different responsibilities as far as the storm and the sewer, separate systems, whereas primarily our systems are single systems.
Okay.
There was some management deficiencies there that needed to be addressed. There were some personnel issues that needed to be addressed. There was just a lot of hands-on. The hands-on approach that I'm accustomed to here was kind of taken away. It was more micromanagement there.
Okay.
And so, but overall, the concepts are still the same. It's public works.
Sure.
We get out there, we do what's best for the public, and we support our residents, and, we hold them to the top priority. That's our top priority. And
Yeah.
so typically, along those lines, it's pretty much the same.
Sure, sure. And, a different constituency, but nearby, a different, maybe a different approach. Also, different system of government. You've got commissioners there.
Right.
How does that compare for people watching?
It's very similar, actually.
Yeah.
The commissioners are the deciding bodies. They pretty much generate and enforce the rules for the township. And whereas here it's a little bit of more combined between, you work closely with council to bring about things that you feel are is needed for the city. But pretty much it's still the same. We had a township manager there versus a mayor.
Right.
And but overall the municipality setup is somewhat similar. Not quite, but somewhat similar.
Yep, and in your new role, obviously, we're working with a number of surrounding municipalities, whether it's Steelton or Pembroke or Paxtang or Susquehanna Township. We're always partnering. Actually, that's a good question. How did you interact with the city public works team as director of public works in Susquehanna Township?
The interaction was wonderful. We combined our resources at times. We had a great cohesive unit. You know, there was times I reached out to you guys here when I was in Susquehanna Township for favors to help me there, and there was times you reached out to me here out there, and it just worked great. And we were able to give both residents, the residents of Harrisburg City as well as Susquehanna Township, a huge bang for their buck versus renting equipment. We just borrow.
Yeah.
You know, and it was great because it saved us both a lot of money, a lot of resources, and a lot of time.
Yeah.
So it was excellent.
Well, you need that regional approach, and I know you're committed to it, and we're committed to it, and that type of partnership approach is just good for everybody. Right. And you know, Harrisburg, we're the center of a region, and we need to have a healthy region for a healthy city, and vice versa. So. I know you've only been on the job for a very short period of time here, but let's talk a little bit about your vision for the future for the Harrisburg Public Works Department. And I will say, when I conducted a search to try and figure out who would be the next leader of the Public Works Department, you know, it became readily apparent that you know, the perfect resume was right there in Susquehanna Township, and it's the resume that we just walked through and we just described, but it almost seems like a whole sort of career sort of building up to the opportunity to return to Harrisburg and lead the department. So we talked early on. Your vision is strong and aligned with mine. Let's talk to the public a little bit about what you hope to achieve.
Yeah, so what I hope to achieve is the biggest thing for me is the accountability piece, Mayor. It's apparent to me that the accountability in public works doesn't exist at this point. So one of the first things I've done from day one is reassign some management teams, and if you'd like me to talk about the move we made.
Sure. Yeah.
So we asked one of our managers to lead our blight division. And she readily stepped up and she agreed to take the lead, and she's working closely with our sanitation enforcement officers to better get a handle on the blight problem, excuse me. And we have to fine tune that moving forward. But, you know, there's some conferences coming up that I have available for my staff, and we're going to spell out the responsibilities in detail. We're going to be accountable to our neighbors that we do business with. We're going to be accountable to residents that call in. We're going to return calls in a timely manner. We're going to respond in a timely manner. And those are things that have not been taking place lately, and we're going to be accountable to that, and that's going to be my promise to the residents of the city and to you and to council, that we are going to do what we have to do to be the best darn public works department in central Pennsylvania. That's my goal.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Yeah.
I mean, as a department, we've grown a lot in a short period of time. I think when you left us to go to Susquehanna Township, compared to where we are now, just in terms of numbers of employees and other things, or contract, just what we do, it's expanded. But in that expansion, sometimes can come a need for, you know, everybody's working around the clock and people aren't focused on important aspects of accountability, like constituent services, like returning phone calls, like making sure that you're you know, available to, and I think you bring that. What you know, what do you think is in store? If I'm a resident watching this, what else do you think people will have to look forward to in the years to come?
Well, we already started my first week here. We started doing some roadway repairs that were very needed, that were needed greatly.
Yes.
You touched on that piece yesterday about your infrastructure plan, and we're going to assist in that. We're going to do everything we can to do some of the smaller jobs that's not part of that plan. Let's going to make our neighborhoods and our communities look a lot better.
That's
we're,
right.
We're going to just redevelop these communities and bring them back up to what they used to be prior to Act 47.
Right.
Yeah.
And infrastructure. So, you know, we talked about how we've got $100 million worth of roads that need to be basically remilled and repaved right now. And we deferred so much collective infrastructure as a city when we had financial problems that there's a lot of catch-up work we need to do. But a part of that, in running in tandem with that, is the need to maintain the roads that we have, to fill the potholes, to do patching, and to do other types of road work, all of which we can do with our public works team. And these two things have to sort of work in tandem, and we can't just give up because the job is too big. So if people are watching, they've heard a little bit, so that maybe they don't fully understand all the aspects of public works. So we have a highway team that does that type of road work. We have a sanitation team. What else? What else happens at Public Works?
We have a vehicle maintenance center team that repairs our vehicles. They do a great job, and they're doing the best they can, and they work like the dickens to get a lot of that work done. We have a good staff of men and women that answers our calls, that sends out our billing. We do the refuse collection. We just have a host of things, and if I skipped or if I missed any of them, you can always give me a call, and if you're sitting at home, and I'll be happy to go over the list with you.
Yeah, and we have other departments that you work in tandem with. So the Parks Maintenance Department works side by side. The Traffic and Engineering Department works side by side, but we're all sort of working towards the same goals. Well, we're really excited to have you here. Tell us a little bit about Nate the person. I understand, and I can't believe this is true, but you have 3 grandchildren?
3 grandchildren, Nolan, Nailani, and oh boy, I just call her Stinky, but I don't know if that's good to say.
Okay.
But my youngest granddaughter, Nailani, or Nova, excuse me. And so, they're pretty exciting. That's my excitement that I have currently in my life.
keeps you going for
right,
sure.
right.
And you credit the women in your life for having raised you and having modeled things. And how would you describe your sort of personal ethic? What are your goals professionally and personally to sort of that you hope to bring to the job?
Well, professionally, I hope to lead by example. My professional goals is to set hold myself to a higher standard, and hopefully, if I hold myself to that standard, everyone else will fall in line and say, hey, he's doing what he said he's going to do, and we need to follow lead, because this is somebody that we can believe in, and someone that we can trust, and someone that we can get behind to better provide better quality and better service to our city.
Yeah.
Also, I just try to be the best person I can. That's my goal, is just to always try to be the best and try to lead by example, my personal life as well as my work life. So I don't really have a higher standard than holding myself accountable to a standard higher than I would anyone else.
Yeah.
And that's just the gist of it. That's just it. That's just what just it. That's what I hope to accomplish.
Well, Nate Spriggs, we are excited to have you. It's an exciting time to be a part of Public Works. We have a facility, we've got a growing team, and we've got a lot of work to do. But it is all doable, and it's all achievable with the right leadership. I appreciate the fact that you were willing to come back and lead this department, and I think we're going to be able to do great things together. And also that you're going to be accessible to the public and be focused on improving things. A couple things that you mentioned in your announcement, which I think people might want to hear a little bit more about, is your desire to hold utility companies accountable for tearing up our streets and roads.
Yes, sir. So one of the things that I think is overlooked is that we spend a lot of money on roadway repairs, and that shouldn't be our responsibility once a utility company comes in and does work. We need to hold them accountable to resurface our roads the way they were prior to cutting them and digging them, and that's something that we need to work through and try to assign someone to do that task, because it's costing us a lot of money. Yeah. And it's leaving our neighborhoods in bad condition, and that's something that's not acceptable.
Yeah, and it requires oversight and inspection, and also, sometimes a fair deal of pressure. That's right. Frankly, more roads that can be completely sort of paved curb to curb by utility companies is less work for us when we already have another 100 million worth of streets and roads that we need to do in the city. And maybe your new Blight Task Force reorganization is gonna deal with this. But we spend a lot of time and energy on community cleanups in Harrisburg, and I know that there's even more than we can do to sort of tackle the blight and the dumping issues. What's been your experience so far in your interaction with our sanitation enforcement team and your discussions internally?
So our sanitation enforcement team is we're becoming more structured rather than going out and just looking for blight. We're setting up a program where we're sending out our pickup trucks twice a week to just stay on top of the blight. We have our sanitation team out, and they've actually just recently uncovered some illegal dumping while it was happening a day ago. So we're working with codes enforcement to pursue that further. It was some illegal dumping of tires, actually, and they're out doing the best job they can do to stop this. And so we have to get together, and I have to sit down with my team and come up with a plan. Let's going to be effective moving forward. Yeah. I don't want to jump into it too soon, being that I've been here for a couple of days, but I want to assess things and make some decisions that's going to really get us moving and resolve a lot of our blight issues that we have here.
Yeah,
in Harrisburg.
We rewrote the sanitation code a year or so back. We've hired these sanitation enforcement officers. We're primed to do a lot. We have stiffer penalties and all sorts of things that we can bring to bear to help with it. But we need leadership. We've got leadership. Nate, thanks for joining us today. This has been a great conversation. I hope you watching at home got to learn a little bit more about Nate Spriggs and who he is and what he brings to the city. Please join us next Friday for this conversation on Spotlight HBG, and every Friday at noon. We're going to do these conversations live. We appreciate you watching, and until next time, I'm Mayor Eric Cockenfoos saying be safe and be well.